Shalom. I'm going to invite Rabbi Rachel up to light candles for us this evening.
Wait till Sylvia gets seated there. We're waiting for Sylvia to get seated, for those of you who wonder, because we can't start unless Sylvia is here. As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we be our lights give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we in our own day be among those who kindle light. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Amen.
Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to kindle the light of Shabbat.
All right, thank you. Well. 18 Shabbat blessings for peace in Israel and Palestine. May this light embrace all who are suffering through war. May this light spread and reach toward the hostages and their families, wrapping them in a protective embrace. May this light illuminate paths of safety and shelter for the people of Gaza. May this light shatter barriers separating food and aid from innocent civilians. May this light open space for the people of Israel and of Palestine to process their grief and anxiety. May this light break open the barriers in our hearts. May this light soften anger and fear. May this light erase thoughts of revenge. May this light give us strength to stand up against extremists in power. May this light hold gently the traumas of our past and the traumas of our present. May all the people who call Israel and Palestine their home come together to grieve and witness each other's pain. May we transform our grief into solidarity. May our solidarity pave the way for a shared future. May we nurture the divine spark in ourselves. May that spark shine out to include our families, friends, neighbors, and all who live on earth. May the divine light from before creation inspire us to choose life. May this light empower us to build the future we want to see. May this light guide us on the path toward healing and peace. All right, I'd like to invite Robin up next to lead us in Kiddush. It's going to be on page 123.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho b'ahava uvratzon hinkilanu zikaron le'maaseh bereshit ki hu yom techila lemikra kodesh zecher letziat mitzrayim kivanu v'chata v'yatanu kidashta mikol hamim v'shabbat kodshecha be'ahava uvratzon Hinkatanu. Baruch atah Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat. Amen. L'chaim.
L'chaim. Let's continue on page 127, and we'll read together. We offer thanks, O God, for this Shabbat, which unites us in faith and hope, for Shabbat holiness, which inspires sacred living, for Shabbat memories glowing even in darkness, for Shabbat peace, born of friendship and love. We offer thanks and blessing, O God. Let's turn to page 138. Lecha dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, la la la, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad, hishmianu el hamiyuchad. Adonai echad u'shemo echad, l'shem u'tiferet ve'litila. Lecha dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, la la la, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha, ki makor haberacha, merosh mikedem nesucha, sof maseh b'machasha v'techila. Lecha dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, la la la, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Mikdash melech ir melucha, kumitzei mitoch hafecha, rav lach shevet be'emek habacha, vehu yachamol alaikem. Lecha dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, la la la, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Yamin u'smol tifrotzi, ve'et Adonai taritzi, al yad ish ben partzi, v'nismecha v'nagila. Lecha dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, la la la, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Boi v'shalom ateret bala, gam besimcha uvetzola, toch emunei am segula. Boi chala, lecha dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, la la la, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Let's turn to page 636 for Yedid Nefesh. Yedid Nefesh, Yadadayav Harachaman, Meshoch Avdecha, Eretzonecha, Yarutz Avdecha Kemo Hayal, Yishtachaveh el mul hadarecha, Yiravlo Yedidutecha, Minof etzuf v'chol tam, Adonai Yadadai ziv haolam, nafshi cholat avatecha. Anail narifanala, beharod lanoam zivecha, as titchazek v'titrape, v'haita Ala Simchat Olam Vatik Yemuna Yadadai Rachamecha Vechusana Habeinahu Vecha Ki ze kama niksof niksaf Lirut betiferet Uzecha Ana elichem dat libi Husana Ve'ati talam Igalena Yadai ufros chaviv alai Et sukat shalomecha Ta'ir eretz mikvodecha Nagila venismecha bach Maher ahuv kiva mohed V'choneinu ki me'olam Yadadai-da-da-da, yadadai-da-da-da, yadadai-da-da-da-da, nai-nai-nai-nai-nai, yadadai-nai-nai-nai, yadadai-nai-nai-nai, yadadai-nai-nai-nai-nai-nai-nai-nai, yadadai-nai-nai-nai, yadadai-nai-nai-nai, yadadai-nai-nai-nai-nai-nai-nai-nai, yadadai-nai-nai-nai, yadadai-nai-nai-nai, yadadai-da-da-da-da-da-nai-nai. All right, let's turn back to page 140 for Psalm 92. Mizmor shir leyom haShabbat, tov lehodod lahadonai, ulzamer l'shimcha elyon, ulzamer l'shimcha elyon, lehagid baboker chastecha, ve'emunatecha balelot, alei asur v'alein havel, alei gayon bechinor. Mizmor shir leyom haShabbat, tov lehodod lahadonai, uzamer l'shimcha elyon, uzamer l'shimcha elyon, ki simchatani Adonai befolecha, memasei yadecha ranein, magodlu ma'asech Adonai, me'od amku machshevotecha. Mizmor shir leyom haShabbat, tov lehodod lahadonai, ulzamer l'shimcha elyon, ulzamer l'shimcha elyon. All right, and finally we'll be turning to page 142 for Shalom Aleichem. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Asharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei Amlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Boachem L'Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei Amlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Barchuni L'Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei Amlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzitchem l'shalom, malachei hashalom, malachei elyon. Mi melech malachei amlachim hakadosh baruch hu. Let's turn to page 145, and we'll read together. Entrances to holiness are everywhere. The possibility of ascent is all the time, even at unlikely times and through unlikely places. There is no place on earth without the presence. All right, we'll turn now to page 146. Please rise if you're able and comfortable doing so for the Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Leolam Vaed. All right, feel free to have a seat. And we'll continue together on page 149. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars. Creator of the tide of time and light, you guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Baruch atah Adonai, Hamariv Aravim. Page 150. Ahavat Olam, Beit Yisrael, Amcha Amcha Torah u'mitzvot, chukim u'mishpatim, otanu limadata, al ken Adonai Eloheinu b'shochbeinu uvkumenu, nasiach bechukecha, ונשמח בדברי תורתך ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד, כי הם חיינו ואורך ימינו, ובהם נגה יומם ולילה, ואהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. We'll turn now to page 152. Please rise if you're able and comfortable doing so for the opening of the Shema. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vahed. All right, feel free to have a seat. We'll continue on 154. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol me'odecha, ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavcha hayom ha'levavecha, v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam b'shivtecha b'veitecha uv'lechtecha v'derech uv'shokbecha uv'kumecha וקשרתם לאות על ידך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובישעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם, אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים, אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם emet. Let's turn to 157 and we'll read together in English. In a world torn by violence and pain, a world far from wholeness and peace, give us the courage to say, Adonai, there is one God in heaven and earth. The high heavens declare your glory. May earth reveal your justice and love. From bondage in Egypt we were delivered. At Sinai we bound ourselves to your way. Inspired by prophets and instructed by sages, time and again we overcame oppressive forces. Though our failings are many and our faults are great, it has been our glory to bear witness to our God, keeping alive in dark ages your vision of a world redeemed. Let us continue to work for the day when the nations will be one and at peace. Then shall we rejoice as Israel did, singing on the shores of the sea. Page 158. Mi kamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, nora tehilot hosefele, malchutecha ra'u vanecha, bokei hayam lifnei Moshe u'Miriam, ze elianu ve'amru, Adonai yimloch leolam va'ed, v'nemar kifada Adonai et Yaakov, uge'alom yad chazak mimenu, Baruch atah Adonai gal Yisrael. Let's turn to page 161 and we'll read together. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Adonai, help us to walk with good companions, to live with hope in our hearts and eternity in our thoughts, that we may lie down in peace and rise up waiting to do your will. Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom aleinu, ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim. All right, let's turn now to page 162. Yismechu ve'malchutcha shomrei Shabbat ve'korei oneg ha'mekadeshei shvi'i kulam yisbeu ve'yitangu b'tuvecha Yismechu ve'malchutcha shomrei Shabbat ve'korei oneg ha'mekadeshei shvi'i kulam yisbeu ve'yitangu b'tuvecha. All right, we're going to turn to page 164 now. Please rise if you're able and comfortable doing so for the beginning of the Amidah. Adonai sevatai tiftachu fi tehillatcha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Page 166. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, v'Konei Hakol, Vezocher chastei avot ve'imahot, umevi ge'ula livnei v'neihem leman shemo be'ahava, melech hozer u'moshia u'magen, Baruch atah Adonai magen Avraham v'ezrat Sarah. Ata gibor leolam Adonai, mechaye metim ata rav lehoshia, morid hatal, mechalkel chayim bechesed, mechaye metim berachamim rabim, somech noflim verofeh cholim, umatir asurim, umekayem emunato lishenei afar, michamocha bal gevurot, umido melach, melech memit umekayeh, umatzmiach Yeshua, v'ne'eman atah l'chayot metim, Baruch atah Adonai mechayeh hametim. I'm going to turn to page 171. Please feel free to have a seat if you'd like. And let's read together in English. Days pass, and the years vanish, and we walk sightless among miracles. God, fill our eyes with seeing and our minds with knowing. Let there be moments when your presence, like lightning, illumines the darkness in which we walk. Help us to see, wherever we gaze, that the bush burns unconsumed, and we, clay touched by God, will reach out for holiness and exclaim in wonder, how filled with awe is this place, and we did not know it. Baruch atah Adonai ha'el hakadosh. Let's turn to page 173. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day, and may this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh HaShabbat. Page 174. Ritzei Adonai Eloheinu b'yamcha Yisrael, utfilatam b'ava tekabel, utehil ratzon tamid, avodat Yisrael amecha, el karov l'chol korav, pnei lavadecha v'chonenu, shefok ruchacha aleinu. ותחזן עינינו בשובך לציון ברחמים, ברוך אתה אדוני המחזיר שכינתו לציון. Right. Let's turn to page 176. And as we do, we're going to observe the Hoda'ah blessing by offering up some things that we're feeling grateful about this evening. So if you'd like to share something that you're feeling grateful about, raise your hand. We're going to start with the English up at the top of the page, and then Robin will bring the microphone around to you in a moment. God of goodness, we give thanks for the gift of life, wonder beyond words, for the awareness of soul, our light within, for the world around us so filled with beauty, for the richness of the earth which day by day sustains us. For all these and more we offer thanks.
I'm grateful for the nice weather enough to be able to sit out on my front porch and having enough time to be able to do it today, to sit and read outside, which is one of my favorite things to do in the entire world.
Thank you.
I am so grateful for, I think, at least a week straight of good weather where I was able to climb under my back porch and do a lot of work in order to raise one corner that had been sagging for years.
Good to hear. Thank you.
I'm very thankful for the wonderful trip I just came back from through Venice, through the Adriatic, Croatia, Greece, and it was we had wonderful weather, and it was a wonderful trip. So I'm very thankful for that.
Thank you.
I am very grateful that today I saved the life of a little bird. And, I really feel good about it because this poor bird was in the backyard of my building, and it just was so upset and it couldn't get out of this little corner it was in. And I really didn't know what to do about it. So I asked some people, everyone said, I don't like birds, I don't deal with birds. So I called a friend, and he came down and he got the bird in a little box and put it in the woods. And right away, all these birds started to come because they heard the bird. So I feel like I saved the life of this bird. That bird's life was very important to me.
That's great to hear. Thank you. Evan, do you see anyone on Zoom that I should know? Jody. Okay, Jody.
I'm grateful to have a week plus with my daughter and her partner from Hawaii the past. And so it was just wonderful to see them. We went to a friend's wedding. It was terrific.
That's great to hear. Thank you, Jody. All right, let's finish up at the bottom of the page. Baruch atah Adonai hatov shimcha ulchan elhodot. Let's turn now to page 179. We'll read together. Grant us peace, your most precious gift, O eternal source of peace, and give us the will to proclaim its message to all the peoples of the earth. Bless our country as a safeguard of peace, its advocate among the nations. May contentment reign within our borders, health and happiness within our homes. Strengthen the bonds of friendship and fellowship among all the inhabitants of every land. Plant virtue in every soul, and may the love of your name hallow every home and every heart. Praised are you, Eternal One, who blesses our people with peace. Baruch atah Adonai, hamevarech et amo Yisrael b'shalom. All right, we'll take a moment now for our own personal prayers and reflections. Ose shalom bimromav hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel. Ose shalom bimromav hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel ve'imeru amen. All right, we'll turn now forward to page 371 for Misha Berach, for Lacholim, for the healing prayer for the sick. This week we are praying for Raphael Aliyedi, Kathleen Al-Jalad, Terry Bennett, Elsie Deutsch, Betty Dorr, Lee Foreman, Robin Haas, Jean Hecht, Sharon Kirchheimer, Holly Levine, Mike Martinez, John Muller, Rowan Nocholino, Grayson Porter, Bryce Schmidt, Sherry Schwartz, Shmuel Emet Ruvain Mebeit Avraham Visara, Orly Shower, Jennifer Stile, Liz Sussman, Rabbi Lance Sussman, Timothy Swindell, Elena Witter, and Gil Williams. And if anyone would like to mention someone else's name for prayers, just raise your hand and we'll get the mic around to you in a moment. Mi shebeirach avoteinu mekor habracha leimoteinu. May the source of strength who bless the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mi shebeirach imotenu, makor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shelema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. Praying for a refuah shlema, a complete and speedy recovery to all those we're holding in our hearts this evening. Folks. You shall place the Levites in attendance upon Aaron and his sons, and designate them as an elevation offering to Adonai. Thus you shall set the Levites apart from the Israelites, and the Levites shall be mine. Thereafter the Levites shall be qualified for the service of the tent of meeting, once you have cleansed them and designated them as an elevation offering. For they are formally assigned to me from among the Israelites. I have taken them for myself in place of all the first issue of the womb, of all the firstborn of the Israelites. What is the meaning of dedication? In Parashat Beha'alotcha, the entire tribe of Levi is separated out from the rest of the Israelite people and designated collectively as something like an offering to God, dedicated to the task of attending to all the work of the sanctuary. In consequence of this special role, the Levites will not be assigned an ancestral portion of land like the other tribes. Their heritage is to be a task, not a territory. The language of the Torah makes a connection between this act of dedication and the law designating firstborn animals as a sacrificial offering to God. Just as the firstborn animals become gods when they were passed over during the plague of the firstborn, so too are firstborn sons. But in place of the firstborn sons of all the tribes of Israel, God takes the tribe of Levi instead. Why? Because the work to which they are being dedicated requires specialized knowledge and skills which need to be preserved and passed down from one generation to the next. But knowledge and skill don't emerge out of nowhere. They're the product of dedication, the deep care and consideration for the work that's possessed by the kind of person who can say, this is what my life is going to be about. And then sticking to that commitment despite all of life's diversions and distractions. A couple of years ago, I gave a teaching here about rabbinic views on workers' rights and workers' organizations. And in that talk, I happened to mention the interesting case of Beit Garmu. The Talmud teaches us the house of Garmu, Beit Garmu, were experts in preparing the showbread for the temple, but they would not teach it to anyone else. The sages sent for experts from Alexandria who knew how to bake as well as they did, but they didn't know how to take the loaves down like they did, with the result that the bread of the Alexandrians got moldy, whereas the bread of Beit Garmu didn't get moldy. When the sages heard of this, they said, whatever the Holy Blessed One created, it was for the sake of God's honor. As it says, everyone who is called by my name, I created for my glory. Let the house of Garmu return to their role. The sages sent for them, but they would not come until they doubled their wages. The sages asked them, on what grounds did you refuse to teach your art? They replied, in our ancestral house, they knew that one day God's house would be destroyed. So we do not teach it, lest an unworthy person learn it and use it for idol worship. And for this they were praised. It's the story we find in Tractate Yoma. And what this story shows is that while the rabbis were displeased with the house of Garmu for refusing to share the secrets of their art, in the end they had to respect the dedication that made them reluctant to risk their skills being learned and used for unworthy purposes. That kind of concern is something I think we ought to strive for in our own life's work. A recognition of the sacredness of the work we do and the elevation that it gives us in our lives. And it's that dedication that I'd like to consider tonight. So the questions that I have for us to consider and talk about are, what does the idea of dedication mean to you? And have you ever known someone who stood out for the dedication they showed? And how did that influence you in your life? And if you've got another thought or another question that you'd like to share, you can, of course, feel free to share that as well.
As far as work goes, or it probably applies to all types of dedication, but I think repetition plays a huge role in what you're dedicated to. because in learning something, you have to repeat steps over and over again, and then you go on to continue to repeat things over and over again, and it becomes part of you. So even though it might be boring sometimes, I'm thinking of my own work, you still devote yourself to it and you keep learning.
Absolutely. And I think for most of us, right, repeating something over and over, like you've got to really care about that in order to, be able to do that without being so completely alienated from what you're doing that you just completely, check out or go someplace else.
The people I work with through Broome Developmental Center and the people that I knew who used to work with my little brother Larry were models of dedication. They go beyond what it is as a job. I mean, and there are people, I've seen people on their free, well, we have an example here, the woman who brings somebody, Richie, with his, she's doing that on her free time. We had people who took Larry on vacation with them because they actually wanted to do that. It's amazing to see, and it's also, I've been discovering, because I've been around long enough, that it's generational, that there are people whose parents worked through BDC, and they worked through BDC, and their aunt works through it, and their brother discovered a couple of brothers and sisters that they've all taken the jobs because it means something extra to them. And it's not always an easy job, so you have to have a kind of dedication to want to be able to do it.
Thank you.
Well, one definition of dedication is when we dedicate a plaque or dedicate, a building or something. But I see dedication as a commitment, an agreement that we're going to do the best we can in whatever our job may be. Whether you're a teacher, a reporter, a janitor, a chef, the people who made the shoe bread. It's a commitment to doing the best you can in whatever your job is and following through. So whether it's exciting job or boring job, it's a commitment you've made, and that's dedication.
No, absolutely. And that interesting thing about, the dedication, that it's something we can dedicate an object or a thing in the same way that we can be dedicated, right? And those are two slightly different meanings of the word dedication. I mean, it's interesting to think about that in the context of the Levites, right? Who occupy, both of those definitions of dedication, right? They are essentially dedicated, right, by the people of Israel to that role in the same way that one might dedicate a plaque, right? Or dedicate, a fund to the support of something you care about, right? They are serving as a kind of offering. But on the other hand, right, in order to actually fulfill that role properly and to continue doing the work from one generation to the next requires that capacity for dedication that we think of as more properly applying to a human being, right, and to a human soul. So, yeah, it's interesting how those two different meanings of dedication can be related and how there can be a gap between them too.
Several years ago, I read Shirley Chisholm's autobiography, and I came away with an admiration for her dedication for equal justice and equality, and it should serve as a model for all.
Thank you.
This topic makes me think of my parents because when my dad was 45 years old, he became totally blind. And the dedication that my mom gave to help him through the rehabilitation and to become a social worker. He went from dentistry to be a social worker. It changed her whole life in helping him to rebuild his life. and the dedication of that. I think about them often, but in different things that pop up. And this one really makes me think of her because she dedicated her life to getting him back on track. And that was really important for our family.
Thank you.
My thought is that I can't help but wonder what happened to the Levites after the destruction of the temple. And there wasn't a temple to still be dedicated to.
I mean, they're still with us, right? You probably, most of us probably know a Levi somewhere, right? Yeah, they're still around. The role of the family, right? That position is still passed down from generation to generation, at least in many communities it is, right? And it's one of the only tribal identities that still remains with us as a people, right? All the other tribes are either essentially disappeared or those tribal identities have essentially vanished, right? We know that the majority of the Jewish people that remained after the Babylonian captivity belonged either to the tribe of Levi or to the tribes of Judah or Benjamin. But we don't observe those tribal distinctions anymore. Nobody really knows, what tribe their family was descended from, except for the Levites, right, who still do preserve that identity. And in some communities are still, respected and honored specifically for that through various forms of ritual, right? All of that, of course, predicated on the assumption that someday the sacrifices may be resurrected as a practice, right? But whether or not it is, right, that identity is still something that's maintained by many Levite families that, down to this day. Yeah. Speaking of dedication, right? Anybody else have a comment? I don't see anybody else's hand up. Yeah, I think that might be it. Thank you, everybody, for your great comments tonight. This was an interesting conversation. We're going to turn back in the prayer book to page 587. Can I get someone to volunteer to open the Ark for us tonight? Anybody? Okay, Bruce, you got it. So let's rise, if you're able and comfortable doing so, as we turn to page 587 for Aleinu. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, l'atei gdula liotzer b'reshit, shehu sam chelkeinu liyached et shemo, ve'gol aleinu lamlik malchuto. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. All right, please feel free to have a seat. Thank you. I'm going to turn to page 591. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד. All right, we'll turn now to page 598 for the Mourner's Kaddish. This week we are remembering the yahrzeits of Louis Freeman, Louise May Hirschfield, Sylvia Banditson, Victoria Fine, Rebecca Platsky, Melvin Seiden, Stanley Aronowitz, Margarita Nathan, and Jeffrey Kahn. Please rise if you're able and comfortable doing so. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei rabba bi'alma divrach yirutei v'gamlik malchutei b'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chaye dechol beit Yisrael ba'gala uv'izman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shemei rabba mevarach le'elam ul'olmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal shemei dekudsha b'richu la'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'chenechamata damiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shalama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amen. Ose shalom bimromav. Hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel ve'imru amen. May their memories be for a blessing. All right, folks, feel free to have a seat. A couple of quick announcements for tonight. Tomorrow, as usual, we've got Torah study followed by Saturday morning prayer service, as happens every week. This Sunday will be the joint Temple Concord, Temple Israel Adult Education Brunch. It's going to be at Temple Concord this time around. The program is being given by Rabbi Friedman and myself. The topic is going to be Shifting Paradigms in Judaism, Past and Present. So that's at 10 a.m. at Temple Concord on Sunday. We hope people have, RSVP'd for it, but if you haven't, that's still okay. We can usually find a way to work people in. So, so come if you can. This Tuesday is the board meeting. And we're also encouraging next Saturday, June 13th, we're encouraging folks after services to join us at Siningo Park for the Pride Palooza Fest. Temple Concord will have a table there. We're going to just be there to show our support for the LGBTQ community in the area, and hopefully let people know that our community is there and is a welcoming and supportive congregation. Sorry? It's next Saturday, June 13th. It's from like noon to 6, so it's after services, like it's until the evening. Yeah. And then Sunday, June 14th, is the Intersisterhood event. This year, it's going to be at Temple Concord, so that's at noon. For other stuff, keep an eye on our emails that we send out. We've got an awful lot going on this June. There's a tremendous amount going on both in the community and here at Temple Concord, so keep an eye on the emails. Oh, I should also mention as well, next Friday night is going to be the second Friday night of the month, and we're trying to make the second Friday night of the month to be like the kind of fixed date for whenever the calendar permits for the musical Shabbat. So next Friday night will be a musical Shabbat. Nothing will be different about, when and where you show up, but we'll be having some music as part of the service. And we're going to try to make that generally a second Friday night of the month kind of thing. So for other stuff, take a look at the email. We're going to finish up on page 625 with the Don Olam, and then we'll head into the social hall for a little bite to eat. Adon Olam asher malach b'terem kol yitzir nivra le'et nasa v'chefzo kol azai melech shemo nigra ve'acharei kichlot hakol levado yimloch nora ve'u haya ve'u hove ve'u yiyeh בתפארה והוא אחד ואין שני להמשילו להכבירה בלי ראשית בלי תכלית ולא העוז והמשרה והוא אלי וחי גואלי וצור חבלי ביצרה והוא ניסי ומנוס לי מנת כוסי ביום אקרא בידו הפקיד רוחי מעת אישן ויהירה ואם רוחי גוויעתי Adonai li velo ida. All right, folks. Here we go. Hamotzi lachem min haaretz. We give thanks to God for bread. Our voices rise in song together as our joyful prayer is said. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lachem min haaretz. Amen. Shabbat shalom, everyone. Thank you so much for being here with us this evening.
Oh, Shabbat shalom, everyone.
Shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shalom.
We were hotter than Hawaii today, guys.
Oh, were we?